Hello everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of An American in Thailand, airing every Friday. This program is broadcast to you from Ratchamakan, University of Technology, Peranakan. And this program comes to you in two parts. For the first part, I will introduce a certain topic about being an American here living in Thailand. We may talk about food, travel, culture, anything like that. We'll then take a break, and in the second part of the program, we'll get into examples and more specifics. Then we'll have the news and latest updates from the university, as always. Welcome everyone, my name is Gary Gray and I am your host for An American in Thailand. Obviously, I am an American and I am here in Thailand working at Ratchamakan University of Technology, Peranakan as an English teacher. I have lived here for almost exactly 8 years as of the date that this will be airing. Obviously, it's available on YouTube, so you may be watching it later. But as of the date this will air, it will have been almost exactly 8 years since I moved here. I moved here on January 1st of 2017. And this is going to be airing at the end of the first week in June in 2025. So I have been here just over 8 years. For that entire 8 years, I have been working here at the university, and I really enjoy it here. That's why I have stayed so long. I have no plans to go back to America. I may go back and visit at some point, but I have no plans to move back there. I hope to stay here for a long time and eventually retire here. So obviously I like Thailand. I like its culture. And I very much like the environment. And what I mean by the environment is I mean that it's a more rural country than a lot of countries. Thailand is one of the only countries in the world, and I mentioned this in one of my previous programs, it's one of the only countries in the world that has actually increased in forested coverage. In other words, trees. How much of the land is covered by trees? You would think that that would go down. As population increases, we need places for people to live. We need more farmland, which would not be covered with trees. Because we need more food, we need more agriculture to feed all those people. So you would think that as populations increase, the forested land area would go down. It has not here in Thailand. There are a few reasons for that. One, the population here is not going up very fast, which isn't necessarily a good thing because aging populations have some trouble with their economies. But the population is still going up. It is going up. So it's still interesting that the amount of forested area is also going up. That still doesn't seem right. Well, one of the reasons is because in the cities, they are trying to build up and not out. And so what I mean by that is they're building taller buildings. So more people can fit into a smaller area in the cities. You see that right here in Bangkok, where I'm broadcasting from. In the old part of town, which is where I live, there aren't that many tall buildings. The tall buildings that we do have there are all new. They're all newer buildings. There are no tall buildings that were built back in the 1960s or 1970s. For example, in America, a building like the Empire State Building in New York City was built, I don't even know when, 1930s, something like that. It was built almost 100 years ago. We don't have that in the old part of Bangkok. It's all mostly lower buildings, buildings that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall. So as we build up, as some of those buildings become old and maybe the people pass away, so the land is now vacant, so they tear down those buildings, those old buildings, and they put in new, higher buildings. So this same area of land that used to have 10 people on it now has 1,000 people on it, because the new building that they put there is really tall. So that's how Thailand has been able to do that. So why am I talking about this? Well, because today we're going to talk about travel in Thailand. And one of the things you're going to notice that for my own personal liking, this is going to be my own personal opinion. A lot of people out there would disagree with me, especially people who are tourists and are not living here. They might disagree strongly with me. So this is just going to be my own opinion. But as you'll see, I prefer the places that have more nature in them. So what we're going to talk about today are places that I have visited here in Thailand. So in the first half of our program, we're going to talk about those places I've been to, and we're going to talk about places I have not been to that I would like to go to. So that's going to be a longer list because we're going to include places I have not been to. So we're just going to kind of briefly mention them and just talk about them really briefly. And then in the second part of our program, we're going to talk about just the places I have been to, which will give us a little more time, not much more, because there's a long list. I've been here 8 years. I've been to a lot of places. But we'll have a little more time because we won't be talking about places I have not been to. So we're going to talk about places I have been to, and we're going to discuss the ones I like, the ones I didn't like, and why. And I think it will surprise you which places I didn't like, because they are places that are fairly common for tourists to travel to. For example, I'm not going to include Bangkok on this list, but I don't really like Bangkok very much. And it's one of the reasons I live in the old part of Bangkok. Well, one of the reasons I live there is just because it's cheaper to live outside of the downtown area. For those of you listening who are from Bangkok, like Sukhumvit, Silom, there's a third area, which for some reason just escaped my mind, just to the east of Silom there. But those three areas of Bangkok are quite expensive to live in. So, yeah. So one of the reasons is just the expense. But I actually don't like being around a lot of tourists. You would think that maybe I would. I'd be comfortable with that. I'm a white guy. I'm an American here in Thailand. You like to be around kind of your own people sometime. But remember, I moved here. I live here. I live in Thailand because I like the people and I like the culture. So I want to be around the people. I want to be around the culture. I don't like to be places where there are a lot of tourists. So that's what you're going to see in the second part of the program. You will see that the places that I don't like very much might surprise you, because it's going to be places with a lot of Western tourists. And not even just Western. Some of these places also have a lot of Russian tourists, a lot of Chinese tourists. I mean, they're not going to be the same as Western tourists because they have their own cultures, their own ways of how they play out their lives, whatever they like to do, things like that. So they're not going to be exactly the same, but they're still there as tourists. So it's kind of a similar feel. Okay, so again, we're going to talk about that in the second part. So here in the first part, let's just first briefly talk about where I've been And we're going to go through this list pretty quickly. I'm pretty much just going to list them out. And the reason is because the places I've been, we're going to talk about a little bit more in the second part of the program. I will give a little extra information on the places I haven't been as to why I would like to go there. Okay, so the places I have been to, and some of them I have been to more than once. For example, the very first one on the list, Khao Yai. I have been up to Khao Yai twice. Once for kind of a fun trip with some friends of mine. Once to go to the national park and kind of do a hike around there, like a guided hike, a guided tour around the national park. So I have been up there twice. I've been to Chiang Mai. I've also been there, I want to say 3 times now, I believe I've been to Chiang Mai. Twice visiting, once on a university trip. In fact, I went there pretty recently on a university trip, just last year, I believe it was. Chiang Rai I've been to, although I should say that I haven't really been in the city of Chiang Rai very much, except driving through it. I've just kind of passed around Chiang Rai mostly. Nong Khai, I have mentioned in previous posts that I actually have a condo up there, so I try to get up there fairly frequently. I haven't been up for a while, and our new semester is starting here at our university, so I'm not sure when I'm going to get up there. But I do try to get up there fairly frequently. So Nong Khai, that's a place so I've been there many, many, many times. Krabi, I've been to Krabi. Phuket, Pattaya. And Phuket and Pattaya I've been to more than once, although sometimes I'm just passing through because I'm getting on a boat, because I'm going to one of the Ghats. Like I've been to Ghat Samet, Ghat Larn, and Koh Phi Phi I've been to twice. So I've been to those 3 places. Chiang Khanh, which is up kind of in the north. Actually, it's very much north. It's right near the border. But it's kind of, the shape of Thailand. If you go over to Chiang Mai, it goes up even further north. So Chiang Khanh isn't as far north as you can get, but it's very far north as far as being near the border. So Chiang Khanh, I've been there. Buen Can, which I may be pronouncing slightly wrong. We don't have that sound in English. Like when I talk about the airport, the smaller airport in Bangkok, I call it Don Muang, and I know it's not Muang. I know that's incorrect. My students laugh at me whenever I say it that way. The sound that you use for that, we don't have that sound in English. So it's always hard for me to make that sound correctly. I think the same is true with Buen Can. I don't think it's pronounced Buang. But I think you know what I mean, up in the northeast, east of Nong Khai. Kanchanaburi, I've been to twice. Khon Kaen, I've been to several times. It's actually one of my favorite places. We'll talk about that later. The only reason I have not been recently is because when I'm heading up that way, I usually now just go to Nong Khai since I have my own condo there. So I haven't been to Khon Kaen in several years now. And Udon Thani. So those are all of the places in Thailand I have been to. I may be forgetting a couple of places. I don't think so. I tried to go through this and brainstorm and think about it and make sure I included every place. I should also point out that I have been pretty much all around Bangkok. So if you want to talk about, like, for example, Samut Prakan or Nonthaburi, or yes, I've been all around the Bangkok area, but I'm not including those as in my travel list here. Okay, so again, we'll talk about those places a little bit more in the second half, but let's talk about the places I have not been to and why I would like to go there. Okay, so a couple of cities that are off kind of to the east. Buriram and Ubon Ratchathani. I have not been to either of those. Why would I like to go there? That is an area that as a Westerner, for tourists, we don't hear about very often. The only reason I ever even hear of either of them, other than maybe I have a student from there, is I know that Buriram has a big football stadium. I think maybe the biggest one in Thailand, I'm not sure. It has a pretty big football stadium there, so I have heard of that. I kind of prefer places, as I mentioned earlier, that are not big for tourists. Also, Ubon Ratchathani is getting out towards Cambodia, near that area, and so I kind of like to would visit all parts of Thailand. That kind of eastern area, which is, I don't even know if those are considered part of Isan. I think they actually are, but they're really on the south side there. I would consider them south of Isan, honestly, if it were me, if I was thinking of the different areas. So I don't know if those are Isan or not, but that's an area I haven't really been to. Is that eastern area that's south of most of what I would think of as Isan, like Nang Khai and Udon Thani and even Konkan, south of there. So Buriram and Ubon Ratchathani. Another place I'd like to go is the hill country that's north of Chiang Mai. First of all, I'm very interested in the culture of the different tribes of people that live there. I'm sure in this modern world, it's mostly modern there, but there probably is still some rural areas that are pretty much operating in that kind of old-fashioned village style. So I'm very interested in seeing that, and I've never been up there before. Even though I've been to Chiang Mai a couple times, I've never gone to the north, into the hill country there. I also wouldn't mind going there during like December, January timeframe, because I know it can get quite cold there, and I actually prefer colder weather. I always find it funny when it gets to like 20 degrees Celsius here in Bangkok, which is rare. We get maybe a couple of days where it's like that. And I see all of my Thai students wearing jackets and sweaters and wool hats, and oh, so cold. It makes me laugh because those are the only days where I'm finally comfortable. Those of you watching on video sometimes may see my shirt sweaty, which is not very professional for our radio program, but I can't help it. It's so darn hot here. We just recorded another program this week where I actually changed my shirt when I got in here because it was so sweaty, and because they don't because they don't have air conditioners in most of the hallways and open space areas here in Thailand, which is very different from America. They would have air conditioner there in America. Just in the walk from the bathroom where I changed my shirt over to the recording studio, my new shirt already got sweaty again. That's one of the only things I don't like about Thailand. It is way too hot here. So I would like to go to the hill country during the cold part of the year, because then it's probably going to be really quite chilly up there. And I don't mind that at all. I would love that. Okay, another area that I would like to visit is the Phetchabun area, which is just kind of in the middle. Not necessarily Phetchabun itself. Maybe so, maybe not. Phetchabun, Pitsanulok, that kind of central area. Just because it's kind of in between all of the sort of tourist areas, and nobody ever really talks about going there. I mean, it's kind of like that eastern area that nobody goes to. I'd like to go check it out. I'd like to visit there. So somewhere around that Phetchabun area in central Thailand. Most of the others, well, I have these listed on a sheet in front of me so I don't miss anything. I'm going to move one of these up so that I can talk about most of the rest of them at the end. So the next one is going to be Ayutthaya. Surprisingly, I have not been there. I've driven through there, past there, whatever, around there when I've gone up to Khao Yai. But I've never been to Ayutthaya. Surprisingly, my partner has. I say surprisingly because we almost always travel together, and before he met me, he had never traveled. So It's kind of surprising for him to be somewhere that I haven't been. But he went there with a friend of his, and that was actually very recently, within the past few months. So he's been to Ayutthaya, but I have not been. So I would like to go to Ayutthaya. I know it's a historical city. In fact, back around 1700, it's believed, we don't have really good records for this, so nobody knows for sure, but it's believed that Ayutthaya might have been the biggest city in the whole world, which is hard to imagine. You think of New York City, Tokyo, London. Of course, America was pretty young at that point. In fact, it wasn't even America at that point. It was still a colony, so New York City wasn't that large then. But you still had London, you still had Tokyo, China still had a lot of people. It was much more rural then, so there weren't a lot of big cities, but still there were a few. You'd think maybe around Beijing, which was Peking at the time, maybe there, I don't know. You'd think someplace would be bigger, but Ayutthaya was perhaps the biggest city in the whole world at the time. So a very historical city, very interesting city. I'd like to go there. Now, most of the rest of these, I do have one last one that's not a specific place, just generally, but most of the rest of these are in the south. I've never been far south in Thailand. I've been a little bit, been down to Phuket, been down to Pattaya, but never far south. So on the southeast side, you've got the area around Trat. I've never been there. Would be interesting to go there. Never been there. There's also an island there, which I don't know if you can... I know most of it's like a wildlife place, so I don't even know if they have hotels and you can stay there, but I think they do. And it's called... I think it's Mu Cheng. It's not Gat Chang. Gat Chang is up off of Pattaya. But I think it's called Gat Mu Chang. And that, to me, looks really pretty. So I would love to go there. So that's down in the Trat area on the southeast. Then in the southwest, you have Nakhon Si Thammarat, Songkhla, Yala, that whole area down there. I would like to visit that area because I've never been down there. Never been to the south. And then the last thing is just in general, more of a general thing, I would like to visit a lot of the national parks. I've never been to most of the national parks here in Thailand. I've been to Khao Yai. That's about it. I've also been to Kanchanaburi, which is kind of like that, but not really because of the places I've been out there. So it's really just Khao Yai. Also, Muang Khan is kind of like that because of the area I went to, but once again, not really. It's really just Khao Yai is the only one I've been to. So I'd like to get to more of the national parks and see more of the nature. For example, I've never seen an elephant out in the wild. I know they have them at Khao Yai, but you don't always see them because there aren't a lot of them. So when I went there, I did not see one. I've never seen an elephant in the wild. I've seen some elephants at parks and zoos and things like that, but not out in the wild. So I'd like to go visit more of the national parks. Okay, so those are the places I would like to visit. That was Buriram, Ubon Ratchathani, the hill country north of Chiang Mai, Phetchabun area, anywhere around the central Thailand there, Trat in the southeast, Nakhon Si Thammarat, Songkhla Yala in the southwest, Ayutthaya, and more of the national parks. So those are the areas I have not been to that I would like to see here in Thailand. All right. So, again, in our second part, we're going to talk about the places I have been and which ones I liked and which ones I didn't like and why. So let's go ahead and take a quick break right now, and then we will come back with part 2. Welcome back, everyone. Okay, so today's episode, we're talking about my experiences traveling in Thailand. We're not going to talk so much about the actual way you travel. It's pretty normal here in Thailand. It's no different than traveling in America. The way people drive on the roads here in Thailand is a little more crazy, like motorcycles not stopping at traffic lights all the time, and the train is kind of an old train. That's kind of really old style. So it's not exactly the same, but it's... So what I mean by talking about my travels here in Thailand is we're talking about the places I've been. And in the first part, we mentioned all the places I've been, all the places I want to go, and why I would like to go there. And so we just quickly ran down the places I have been. So in this second part, we're going to talk a little bit more about the places I've been and which ones I like and which ones I don't like. Now, I should say this is just my opinion. So you might really like some of the places I don't like. You might think, oh my God, how could you not like that place? It's so wonderful. It's so beautiful. That's fine. That's just my opinion. In fact, some of the places that I don't like are some of the more touristy areas, which means a lot of people must love them because lots of people go there. So my opinion is not the same as everyone else's. I'm just telling you what I like and why. So, for example, I mentioned that I don't like the touristy areas, and I mentioned in the first part of our program that the reason for that is because I'm not a tourist. I live here. I've lived here for 8 years. There's a reason why I moved here. I moved here because I like the people. I like the culture. I love kind of the attitude that people have. It's a much more laid-back environment than in Western culture. Sometimes that can be bad if you need someone to do something. Well, you never know when it's going to get done. But mostly I like the attitude. I like the laid-back attitude. It's much more relaxed. The last job I had in America before I moved here was very intense, very long hours. They did pay well, so I made a lot more money than I make here, but it was a lot of hard work and very tense, a lot of pressure. So I very much appreciate the laid-back nature of Thailand. So I don't like to go to places where a lot of tourists go to. Don't like it. I like to be around the Thai people, be around the Thai culture, that sort of thing. All right, so let's first talk about the places that I do like here in Thailand. All right, so, and this is going to be a repeat of my first list from the first part, except that I'm going to break it down. We're going to talk about the places I like first, and then we're going to talk about the places I didn't like and why. So, first place I liked, Khao Yai. Okay, I mentioned in the first part of our program that I like nature. Okay, there's a lot of nature up and around Khao Yai. Even if you're going there as a tourist, like there's kind of an amusement park there I went to with some of my friends, which was a lot of fun. But even just driving up there, you're driving through a lot of beautiful area. It's very pretty. It's a really nice area up there. So I really love the nature, the peacefulness. It's just a beautiful part of Thailand. So up around Khao Yai, I really liked it there. And really, it's just the natural beauty. That's it. Peaceful, calm, beautiful. Love it. Chiang Rai. Now, I do have to say this. I mentioned this in the first part. I didn't really spend much time in the city of Chiang Rai. It was more just kind of traveling around the outskirts. For example, I went to the White Temple, which they say is in Chiang Rai. Well, really, if you look at a map at where the White Temple is and where Chiang Rai is, the White Temple really isn't in Chiang Rai. Chiang Rai is just the nearest city. So I've really only driven through Chiang Rai. Now I should say that I did like it when I drove through it. It was kind of old, looked a little bit kind of poor and dirty, but at least the part I drove through. But in a way I almost liked that because it was more old style. Which, again, I don't like the touristy places, which tend to be more wealthy, right? Because you're bringing in a lot of foreign tourists, so lots of money comes in, and so, not my place. This looked more traditional. Chiang Rai looked like a more traditional city, so I kind of liked that. And also, I did love the White Temple. Too many tourists, again, but it's just really beautiful. The White Temple is just beautiful, so I really like that. So Chiang Rai, certainly not my favorite place for the reasons I mentioned. Too many tourists at the White Temple. The city I don't know that much about, and it looks a little bit run down, but I still kind of liked it. So Chiang Rai, not my favorite, but I do like it. I do like it. I wouldn't mind going back up there. Like I said, I really only kind of went through there. I didn't spend a lot of time there. I'd like to go back through there. I'd like to go back there, rather. Visit there a little bit longer. Nong Khai. Okay, I've already mentioned this place several times in these episodes because I have a condo there. I've been there dozens of times, and I hope to get back there quite soon. It's been a while since I've been there, and I actually own my condo there, so it's just sitting there empty. I need to get up there. And visit Nong Khai soon. So why do I like Nong Khai? Well, I really obviously this is one of my favorite places. That's why I bought the condo there. It's beautiful because it's right on the Mekong River, and my condo is right on the river. So it's a beautiful city. I also love the size of the city. It's just big enough so that you have kind of all the stores you need. Like we have a big, giant Tesco Lotus there at the shopping mall. We have a shopping mall. It has a movie theater. I've never been to the movie theater up there, but it has one. It has a movie theater. There's a right across the street from the Tesco Lotus. There's a Big C. It has all the standard kind of fast food restaurants like Pizza Hut and the Pizza Company and KFC and McDonald's, and it has all that stuff there. It's also large enough that it has a small amount of tourists, and people who have retired there. So there's just enough of that so that there are a few Western-style restaurants. And as I've mentioned in previous episodes, even though most Westerners love Thai food, I'm the exception. Now, I should tell you, I don't mind Thai food. Thai food is good. We just did an episode about this in our last episode. Thai food is good. I like it. But I often still prefer Western food. So the fact that they have Western-style restaurants there is really nice. And yet it's still a small enough city that is quite quiet, generally. Sometimes they love to have festivals and things, and when that's going on, because my condo is right near where they do that, it can get a little bit loud and stay loud early into the morning. But generally, it's quite quiet, and you don't have to travel more than a few kilometers in either direction to get kind of into the countryside. You don't have to travel very far at all. In fact, sometimes I like to do a lot of running. Haven't done much lately, so I'm getting too fat, but I generally, in the past at least, I have liked to do that. And in Nong Khai, I can run 1 kilometer, and I'm outside if I run in the right direction, like if I run to the west. If I run to the west, 1 kilometer, and I'm out in the countryside. So it's a really nice area. I love that. Nong Khai is probably my favorite place in all of Thailand. Okay, the next place I like is Pattaya. This one may surprise you. I told you I don't like touristy areas. Okay, well, I should be clear about this. Pattaya is also on my list of places I don't like. So I only like certain areas of Pattaya. I like the southern area, which I think technically is not actually Pattaya, because it's outside of the little city part of Pattaya. But down near Jomtien Beach, that area. It's much quieter. The only thing I don't like about it, it's hard to find any restaurants. But if you're staying at a hotel, most hotels have restaurants. You probably don't want to eat at the same restaurant every time. But it's actually walking distance up to the rest of Pattaya. Well, it's a long walk, but I've done it. It's not that far. A couple kilometers. So I really like Jomtien Beach. It's quite quiet. A lot of the hotels are right on the beach there. Unlike in the main part of Pattaya, where they're going to be... there are some that are right on the beach, but because there are a lot of them, a lot of the hotels are off the beach. So you can just walk out of your hotel and just walk right to the beach there, right on the back side of the hotel. So I really like the south side of Pattaya. down near Jomtien Beach, that area. All right, the next three are the three islands I have been to: Koh Samet, Koh Larn, and Koh Phi Phi. Okay, so I do have... Now, these are also tourist areas, so you may say, really? You like those? I do have to say that when I went to Koh Samet and Koh Larn, it wasn't fabulous. It was all right. It was all right. But it did just so happen that I went there during times where there would be a lot more tourists. Like when I went to Koh Samet, it was over New Year's. So I knew that was going to be an issue, and it was. And when I went to Koh Larn, which was just this year, I went there during Chinese New Year. So there were a lot of Chinese tourists there. I didn't even realize it was Chinese New Year when I booked it. So yeah, I still don't really like the tourists, the big touristy areas. But I do have to say that the beaches are really nice. Some of the stuff they have on the beaches, like when they have the people that can, like when they have the fire twirlers and things like that, it's kind of fun to watch. If your hotel is kind of out of the way, which mine have been at all three of these places that I've stayed at, it's quite quiet, quite peaceful, quite nice. Also, if you're right near the beach, you can have a really nice view from your hotel, which is the case at all three places I've stayed. So, yeah, I do still like these. I do like going to the islands. So that's Koh Samet, Koh Larn, and Koh Phi Phi. I think my favorite of those three is Koh Phi Phi. I thought Koh Larn would be my favorite because I have heard that it's a little less touristy. It most certainly was not when I went there. Again, I did go there over Chinese New Year's, so maybe that's why. But Koh Larn was not my favorite of the three. Koh Phi Phi was my favorite. Now, I should say, on my list of places in the first part of the program that I said I have not been, that I would like to go, I did not list any other ghats, any other islands, except for Gat Mu Chang, down near Trat. There are several other islands I wouldn't mind going to. Okay, next on the list is Chiang Khăn. Chiang Khăn, I didn't spend a long time there, but so I don't have too much to say about this or the next one because I didn't spend much time in the next one either. But it was a cute little city, town. I'm not even sure what you'd call it. They have a nice street walking market that's there. That's really nice. Restaurants there are pretty nice to visit. It's just a big enough tourist town that it's kind of built up a little bit, but small enough that it's not that crowded. There aren't a lot of tourists there. It's a really cute little town. And so that's up north. That's near I think the Lao border. I'm not sure where Laos ends and Myanmar begins, so I'm not sure if it's near the Myanmar border or the Lao border. I think it's the Lao border, though. So that's Chiang Khăn. Next one is Bun Kan. There I only went for a day trip, so again, I don't have too much to say about this. We went there, we went to see the three whales, which you may be familiar with, especially for most people listening to this are probably Thai. So you're probably familiar with that site, and that's really beautiful. So again, I don't have too much to say about that, except that it's beautiful nature. Just went there for the day. It's really pretty. I like it there. I like it. It's nice. It's a pretty area. That's up in the northeast. Also up near the Lao border. That's really nice. Kanchanaburi I've been to twice, and we've been west of like the city of Kanchanaburi. I've been out to the outskirts, out into the countryside of Kanchanaburi, and that's really beautiful. There's a river there. A lot of the places you can stay are right there on the river, and they have activities you can do in the water. You can get into the water. You can do all kinds of stuff. Most of those places have things like that you can do. That's really wonderful. And again, it's the natural beauty. Once again, very beautiful out there. So once again, I don't really have too much to say about Kanchanaburi either, just because it's just the nature. It's just beautiful, peaceful, nice to go to. And the last one on the list of places I like is Khon Kaen. So Khon Kaen. So why do I like Khon Kaen? It's obviously quite a bit bigger than Chiang Khon, but it's kind of that same idea where it's a big enough city, and kind of like Nong Khai as well. It's a big enough city, so it has everything you need. And yet it's small enough that there aren't a lot of tourists. It's not that crowded. So I've been there many times. That's one of my favorite places in all of Thailand. I also prefer Isan. We've talked about that in a previous episode. And that's up there in that area. So Khon Kaen is one of my favorite places in all of Thailand. It's just, I just love the small city. They have this lake in the middle of the city as well. You can just walk around. I actually just like walking around the lake. Just walk around it. I told you I do like running sometimes. So sometimes I've done like run laps around the lake, and it's pretty big. So you only have to run around 2 or 3 times, and you've gotten a pretty decent run in. Depends on how far you're trying to run. But that's a really nice area. So I love Khon Kaen, and I have done a lot of running when I was in Khon Kaen, because I used to do more running than I do now, and Khon Kaen I used to go to a longer time ago. I haven't been there, like I mentioned, in quite a while. So I've run basically around the entire city of Khon Kaen, and the outskirts outside of it. So beautiful place. I love Khon Kaen. One of my favorite places in Thailand. All right, so let's talk about the places I don't like. All right, so we're running out of time here, so we got to cover these pretty quickly. And that's okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about bad things. And you're going to notice that all 4 of them have the same thing in common. Tourists. So the first place, which actually there's 5 places, I left one off my list by mistake, and that is Chiang Mai. I really don't like Chiang Mai. Way too many tourists. Way too many. Don't like it at all. I mean, I like some of the sites they have there, like the big, what is it, Doi Sutep? Is that the one that's on the mountain there? I like that. I mean, I like some of the sites they have. Just too big. Too big. I don't like big cities with lots of tourists. No. Same problem I have with Udon Thani. Big city, too many tourists. Don't like it. Don't like Udon Thani. It's probably the only place in all of Isan that I don't really like. Even then, it might be my favorite of the places I don't like. So it's not terrible. Just not a big fan. And I've only really been there once or twice as far as actually hanging around in Udon. Did not impress me. The other 3 are all coastal areas. Beach areas where there are just too many tourists. They also are very expensive because they have tourist price rates. For example, Krabi is on my list. They charged me 1,000 baht to get from the airport to my hotel, which was like 10 minutes away. They charge 1,000 baht. Give me a break. A 10-minute ride in a taxi is like, actually I think it was a little longer than that, but still, it shouldn't have cost more than 200 baht. They charge like 5 times the rate they should charge. The restaurants there are all expensive. Everything's expensive. It's probably my least favorite place I've ever visited in Thailand. Is probably Krabi. Absolutely hate it. Phuket, kind of put that up there with Udon Thani with not terrible. I didn't hate it. It just, again, too many tourists. Didn't really like it. Now, Phuket does have areas around it. Like there's a place on the north side. I forget what it's called. But it's supposedly a really nice place to go if you want to get away from the touristy area. So I'm just talking about Phuket itself, like the main area. Too many tourists. And Pattaya downtown, as I mentioned in the places I do like south area. Like you get down to Jomtien Beach. That's pretty nice. Pattaya downtown, don't like it. The beach there is not very clean, has boats all tied up, so you can't even go out and swim. It's just, I mean, I don't do a lot of swimming, but I do like to kind of get into the water a little bit. The beach is pretty dirty. People throw their trash out. Too many tourists, dirty. Can't even get in the water, really. I mean, some people do, but yeah, it's just not for me. Pattaya is for a young crowd that just wants to go to the bars and stuff. There's no problem with that. Even today, I still like going to a bar occasionally, but I'm not going to go on a vacation just to go do stuff like that. So, no. Pattaya, the downtown area, not for me. So those are the places I don't like. I told you it's a short list. Chiang Mai, Krabi, Phuket, downtown Pattaya, and Udon Thani. Those are the places I've been to in Thailand that I really didn't like. And again, probably my least favorite is Krabi, which I know is going to surprise a lot of people. It's a very popular place. Sorry. The beach is also a lot like Pattaya's beach, where there's a lot of boats tied up and stuff. Hard to even get in the water. It's just not... It's not very nice. So, yeah, I'm very unimpressed with Krabi. It's probably my least favorite place. Outrageously expensive. Not very beautiful. I would prefer the islands over going to Krabi. All of the islands I've been to were on the list of places I liked, even the ones that had a lot of tourists, like Koh Samet and Koh Larn. Koh Phi Phi always has a lot of tourists because it's very popular. But again, I didn't really mind it there. Okay, so that's the list of places I like and don't like. You'll notice, just to summarize, that I did like most of them. Yes, I love Thailand. I like it here. It's a very beautiful country. So most of the places I do like. And you'll notice that every single one of the places I didn't like, it's because there are a lot of tourists. I said it twice already. I'll say it a third time. I moved here because I like the people. I like the culture. Even though I'm a white guy, I'm an American, been here 8 years, still can't speak Thai, I still prefer the Thai people. I don't want to be in a place that's just flooded with all kinds of tourists. That's not for me. If I wanted to be around a lot of Westerners, I'd go back home. Don't like that. So, most of these places I do like. The only ones I don't are the ones with a lot of tourists. So that is my experience traveling here in Thailand. The places I like, the places I don't like. So that's about it. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of An American in Thailand. Please stay with us and tune back in next week for another interesting episode. And please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.